The coffee maker gurgled, spitting out the last of the dark liquid. I reached into the cupboard, my movements automatic, pulling down 2 mugs. One was a heavy ceramic thing Henry had loved. The other was a delicate porcelain cup, a wedding gift from 42 years ago. I poured the coffee, 2 steaming cups, just as I had every morning for 4 decades. I added a splash of cream to his. I took mine black. I carried both mugs to the small kitchen table and set them down. I sat. The steam rose from both cups. I looked at Henry's. The silence in the house was a physical weight, pressing in on me. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall sounded like a hammer blow. My eyes burned. I pushed his mug across the table toward the empty chair where he should have been, where he would never be again. I stared at it until the steam stopped rising and the coffee was cold. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The doorbell rang the next morning. I hadn't slept, hadn't moved far from the kitchen. I shuffled to the door, my black morning dress wrinkled. It was my daughter-in-law, Miranda. She wasn't alone. 2 men in sharp, dark suits flanked her, carrying expensive briefcases. "Erisa," she said. Her voice was a smooth, practiced syrup of concern. "I'm so glad we caught you. We need to talk." "Miranda, what is this? Who are these men?" "These are my attorneys," she said, brushing past me into the foyer I had polished just last week. The men followed, their shoes clicking on the hardwood. "We need to discuss Henry's estate." "The estate?" I frowned, closing the door. "Miranda, the funeral was yesterday. It's not the time." "It's the only time, Erisa," she said, turning to face me. Her mask of sympathy was already slipping, revealing something hard and impatient beneath. "Let's go to the study." We didn't go to the study. We sat at the kitchen table in the same spots from yesterday, only this time the empty chair was occupied by Miranda. The taller of the 2 lawyers opened his briefcase with a sharp thwack. "Mrs. Erisa Mayhew, my name is Mr. Kenzie. We represent the estate of the late Henry Mayhew." "I don't understand," I said, my hands trembling. "Henry left everything to me. We've been married 42 years. Our will is straightforward." "Was," the lawyer corrected, his voice flat. He slid a thick, stapled document across the table. "This is Mr. Mayhew's final will and testament, dated 2 months ago." I picked it up. The legal language was dense, but the words at the bottom were clear. "Bequeath all assets, real and personal, to my daughter-in-law, Miranda Mayhew." "No," I whispered. "That's not his signature." "I assure you it is," Miranda said, her voice sharp. "Henry and I had a long talk. He was concerned." "Concerned about what?" "Your limitations, Erisa," she said, leaning forward. "Your age, your ability to manage the portfolio. He knew I could handle it. He knew Daniel and I could handle it." My head snapped up. "Daniel, my son? Where is Daniel? Does he know you're doing this?" A small, cruel smile played on Miranda's lips. "Daniel knows everything, Erisa. He's the one who suggested it." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. "No, you're lying. Daniel wouldn't, he would never. He was just protecting his father's legacy," Miranda said, sitting back as if she owned the chair. "He was worried you'd squander it. He was worried about the stress on you. He loves you, Erisa. This is for you, really. It unburdens you." "I want to talk to my son," I demanded, my voice rising. "He's busy." She dismissed me with a wave of her hand. "He's arranging the sale of Henry's workshop tools. Such a bother, but he's handling it." "Get out," I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "Of course," the lawyer said, standing. "We just needed to inform you." "You have 2 weeks to vacate the premises," the second lawyer spoke for the first time. His voice was monotone, as if he were reading a grocery list. 2 weeks? I stood, my chair scraping violently. "This is my home." "It was," Miranda corrected me, standing as well. "It's my home now, and I'm afraid I have a designer coming in. We're redecorating. Gray. I find all this beige so dated." She paused at the kitchen door. "Try to be out by the 1st of the month. It just makes the paperwork cleaner." After they left, I sank back into my chair. The silence was back, but it was heavier now, filled with their voices. I pulled my phone from my pocket, my fingers shaking so hard I could barely type the number. Daniel, my son, my baby. I dialed. It rang once, then clicked. A cold, automated voice. "The number you have dialed has been blocked at the customer's request." I dialed again. Blocked. I tried his work number. Blocked. He hadn't just agreed. He had erased me. I didn't pack. I wandered the house for hours, touching the furniture, the photographs, the life Henry and I had built. I ended up in Daniel's old room, holding a framed picture of him at his high school graduation, his arm around me, both of us grinning. The woman who had just left couldn't have been born from the boy in that photo. I must have fallen asleep there. I woke to the sound of voices downstairs. I ran to the landing. Miranda was in the kitchen directing 2 large men. "Yes, that sofa can go straight to the dump, and the curtains. Burn them for all I care." "Miranda," I yelled, clinging to the banister. "You said 2 weeks. It's been 1 day." She looked up, not a trace of surprise on her face. She was wearing my favorite blue cashmere dress, the one Henry had given me for our last anniversary. "Plans changed. The designers had an opening. You should have left yesterday, Erisa. Really, this is just inconvenient." That's my dress." She looked down at herself, smoothing the fabric over her hips. "It is, isn't it? It's a lovely color. Don't worry, I'll put it to good use." She turned back to the movers. The bedroom furniture, too. All of it. One of the men looked at me, then at her. "Ma'am, the old lady is still here." "She's just leaving," Miranda said, her voice like ice. She pointed to the small suitcase I'd left by the door, the one I hadn't even packed. "Take that bag and put it on the porch, then get the rest of this junk out of here." I stood on the sidewalk and watched them carry my life out in pieces. My bed, Henry's armchair, the dining table where we'd hosted 40 years of Thanksgivings. I had my purse, 1 suitcase, and the car. That was it. The first night, I slept in the car in a Walmart parking lot. I cried until my body was dehydrated and empty. The second night, I paid for a cheap motel. The thin blankets smelled like stale smoke. I tried to find a lawyer, but the one I met with shook his head when he saw the will Miranda had filed. "This is ironclad, Mrs. Mayhew. Your husband's signature is verified. Contesting this would take years and cost more than you have." He was right. I didn't have anything. The joint accounts had been frozen, then emptied. Transferred to Miranda. The motel money ran out in a week. The car ran out of gas. I sold my wedding ring for $200. That lasted 3 more days. Then there was nothing. 3 weeks after Henry's funeral, I was standing behind Toscano's Italian bistro, the smell of garlic and sour milk thick in the air. My stomach was a painful, empty knot. I saw a half-eaten loaf of bread in the dumpster just beyond my reach. I climbed onto a stack of flattened boxes to get it, my hands sinking into something wet and cold. I was Irissa Mayhew. I had hosted charity balls. I had raised a son, and I was starving. "Excuse me." The voice was crisp and professional. It didn't belong in an alleyway. I froze, my hand clutching the stale bread. I turned, my face burning with a shame so hot it felt like a fever. A woman stood there, silhouetted by the streetlight. She was in her 50s, wearing an immaculate charcoal gray suit, her silver hair pulled back in an elegant twist. She looked like she belonged on the cover of a magazine. "Are you Irissa Mayhew?" she asked. Her eyes weren't pitying, they were searching. "Formerly Irissa Pierce?" My maiden name. I hadn't heard that name in decades. It felt like a lifetime ago. "Who's asking?" I stammered, trying to hide the bread behind my back. "My name is Matilda Wakefield," the woman said, taking a step closer. "I'm an attorney. I've been looking for you for some time, Mrs. Mayhew. If this is about the house, about my daughter-in-law, I have nothing. She took everything." "This isn't about Miranda," Matilda Wakefield said. "I'm from New York. I was your brother's attorney." New York? The words hit me like a slap. New York meant Boston, and Boston meant Martin, my brother, Martin Pierce. The name tasted like ash. "Martin?" I said, my voice hollow. We haven't spoken in 30 years, not since our parents' funeral. He hated me." "I think you're mistaken about that," Matilda said softly. "If you're his lawyer, you've wasted a trip. I have no money to give you. I have nothing, as you can see." I gestured to the dumpster, the fight suddenly draining out of me. Matilda's expression softened. "I'm not here to ask for anything, Irisa. I'm here because I have some difficult news. Martin passed away 2 months ago, a heart attack. It was very sudden." I stared at her. Martin. Dead. I should have felt something. Grief, sadness, relief. Instead, I just felt cold. My brother had been dead for 2 months, and I was finding out while digging through trash. The universe had a sick sense of humor. "Why are you telling me this?" I whispered. Matilda Wakefield reached into her leather briefcase and pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope. My name was written on the front in an angry, familiar scrawl. Martin's handwriting. It hadn't changed at all. "He left this for you," she said. My hands were filthy, covered in grease, and God knows what else. I wiped them on my torn coat, but they still shook as I took the envelope. It felt heavy, expensive. I tore it open. "Irisa. If you're reading this, I'm dead, and it means Matilda found you. I hope she found you well, but knowing your stubborn pride, you probably didn't call anyone when Henry died." "Yes, I knew Henry died. I've been keeping tabs on you for years. Don't act so surprised." "I know what they did to you. Your son, Daniel, and that wife of his. I know they threw you out. I know you're probably too proud to ask for help, just like you were 30 years ago." I had to stop and read that part again. He knew. I was wrong, Irisa. About the money, about Mom and Dad's will, about you. I was an arrogant fool, and I let my anger waste 30 years. I built an empire, but I never married, never had kids. You were all I had left, and I was too damn stubborn to pick up the phone. I can't take back the words I said, but I can do this. My eyes scanned the next lines, the words blurring. My entire estate. 47 million draws, the penthouse on Forest Avenue, the house in Harborside, my 1967 Aston Martin. It's all yours, Irisa, every last cent. I made damn sure of that. I looked up at Matilda, my mind reeling. This was a joke, a hallucination. I was starving and cold, and I was imagining this. "This isn't real," I said. "It is 100% real, Mrs. Mayhew," Matilda said, her voice firm. "Your brother was Martin Pierce, founder of Pierce Analytics. He was one of the most successful data entrepreneurs in the country. The penthouse alone is valued at over $12 million. 47 million, I whispered the number. It was meaningless. I would have wept for $47. But he hated me. We fought. We said terrible things. He spent the last 30 years regretting it, Matilda said gently. And he spent the last 6 months making sure you would be safe after Henry passed. There is, however, one condition, Matilda said, her tone becoming professional again. A catch. I knew it. A legal stipulation. Martin knew you. He knew you'd want to sell everything, give it away, and go live in some tiny apartment. He didn't want that. She pulled out a second, thinner document. You are required to establish residency in the Forest Avenue penthouse and live there for 365 consecutive days, 1 full year, If you leave or fail to meet the residency requirement, the entire estate, all $47 million, is forfeited and transferred to a list of charities he designated. A year, I breathed. A year in an apartment. He wanted you to feel secure, Erisa. He wanted you to live in a place no one could take from you. After the year is up, you can do whatever you wish with the assets. But for 1 year, you have to live the life he built for you. And Miranda, Daniel, Matilda's expression hardened. They have no claim. Martin's will is airtight. I drafted it myself. He was very specific about them. I looked down at myself, my matted hair, my filthy coat, the stench of the dumpster clinging to me. I can't go anywhere, I said, the shame returning. I smell. That's all been taken care of, Matilda said with a small smile. She gestured to a sleek black sedan parked at the end of the alley. My car is waiting. We can drive to New York tonight. But my clothes. Martin thought of that too. He had an assistant purchase a full wardrobe based on photographs based on recent photographs. Everything is in your size. It's all waiting for you. As I took a step toward the car, I felt a wave of dizziness. The stale bread was still clutched in my hand. I hadn't eaten a real meal in days. Matilda saw me sway. When did you last eat, Erisa? I don't remember. She opened the car door and the scent of clean leather washed over me. We'll stop on the way. You can have anything you want. As the car pulled away, I looked back at the alley, at the dumpster that had been my salvation and my prison. An hour ago, I was fighting for scraps. Now, I was a multimillionaire. Miranda thought she had won. She thought she had erased me. She had no idea what Martin Pierce had just set in motion. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. My jaw dropped. It wasn't an apartment. It was a palace in the sky, floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, revealing a breathtaking, glittering panorama of Central Park and the New York skyline. The furniture was modern and elegant. The art on the walls looked like it belonged in a museum. Martin had good taste, I murmured. He was very particular, Matilda agreed. She gave me a brief tour. A gourmet kitchen with appliances I wouldn't know how to turn on, a guest wing with 3 bedrooms, and then the master suite. The walk-in closet was the size of my old living room, filled with racks of new clothes, cashmere sweaters, silk blouses, tailored trousers, shoes still in their boxes, all in my size. He thought of everything, I whispered. He did, Matilda said, but this was his favorite room. She led me to the study. It was paneled in dark mahogany, lined floor to ceiling with books. A massive desk faced the window, and on that desk, in a simple silver frame, was a photograph. Me and Martin. I was maybe 10. He was 8. We were in Boston, in our tiny backyard, grinning proudly next to a lopsided snowman. His arm was slung around my shoulder. We were best friends. Tears I thought I no longer had welled in my eyes. He looked at that every day, Matilda said softly. She placed her briefcase on the desk. I'll let you get settled. I'll return in the morning and we can begin the paperwork. Try to get some rest, Erisa. You're safe now. After Matilda left, I stood alone in the cavernous penthouse. The luxury was overwhelming. It felt sterile, cold. It wasn't home. I wandered back to the study. I sat in Martin's large leather chair. It still held the faint scent of his cologne, a scent I hadn't smelled in 30 years. I ran my fingers over the smooth, cool desktop. My hand brushed against a decorative panel at the back of the desk. It felt loose. Curious, I pressed it. A faint click echoed in the silent room. The panel slid aside, revealing a dark, hidden compartment. My heart hammered against my ribs. What was this? I reached inside, and my fingers brushed against a stack of manila folders. I pulled the first one out. Written on the tab, in Martin's familiar scrawl, were 2 words. Miranda Mayhew. My hands trembled as I opened the file. This wasn't Martin's old junk. This was recent. The first page was a professional investigator's report. Subject Miranda Mayhew, née Romero. Aliases Miranda Sanchez, Maria Romero. I kept reading, my blood turning to ice. Background: subject has been married twice previously under different names. First marriage to Ricardo Sanchez, 2015-2017, ended when subject vanished with joint bank account funds totaling $112,000. Sanchez's current whereabouts unknown. Second marriage to Jonathan Miles, 2018-2020, ended when Miles died in a suspicious single-car accident. Brakes were found to be tampered with. Subject was the sole beneficiary of a $250,000 life insurance policy. I had to sit down. I grabbed the edge of the desk. This was impossible. Miranda was a criminal, a killer, and Daniel had married her. I forced myself to keep reading. The file was thick. The PI had been thorough. He had uncovered Miranda's pattern. She targeted older, financially secure men or their sons. She isolated them from their families, gained their trust, and then she took everything. The next document I pulled out made me gasp. It was Henry's will, my Henry, dated 5 years ago. It was exactly as I remembered it. Simple, clear, leaving our shared estate to me, his wife, and in the event of my death, to our son, Daniel. Attached to it was a note from Martin. Erisa. This is the original. Got it from Henry's personal attorney. The old man never changed a thing. That bitch forged the new one. The PI has a forensic analysis. The signature is good, but it was traced from a birthday card Daniel gave him. She practiced it. Forged. She hadn't just manipulated Henry. She had committed a felony. She had stolen my life with a lie and a fake signature. I dug deeper into the compartment. There were more files. Bank records. They showed dozens of small, suspicious transfers from Henry's private accounts to an offshore account in Miranda's name. They started the day after she married Daniel. They escalated in the weeks before Henry's death. She had been bleeding him dry. At the bottom of the compartment was a small velvet bag. I opened it. Inside was a tiny digital audio recorder, no bigger than my thumb. A yellow sticky note was attached to it. Kitchen. 3 days after funeral. Listen. My heart was beating so fast I thought I might pass out. I fumbled with the tiny device, my fingers clumsy. I found the play button and pressed it. Static. A muffled sound, and then her voice. Miranda's voice, crystal clear. I still can't believe how easy it was, baby. The old fool never suspected a thing. A man's voice. A laugh. A laugh I recognized. A laugh I had loved my entire life. Daniel. You're a genius, Miranda, my son's voice said. He just dropped. And his mother. God, the look on her face. Priceless. She's gone, Miranda said. I had her number blocked from your phone this morning. She's homeless, penniless, and you, my love, are about to be very, very rich as soon as that house sells. What about, what if she goes to the cops? With what? Miranda scoffed. A forged will that looks perfect. Her word against ours. She's a crazy old woman. By the time anyone listens to her, she'll be dead or in a gutter. I dropped the recorder. It clattered onto the desk. I ran to the pristine, multi-million-dollar bathroom and was violently sick. It took me an hour to stop shaking. I forced myself back to the study, back to the desk, back to the compartment. There was another recorder. The note was shorter. 1 week before. I pressed play. My hand was steady now, cold. Sure this is gonna work? Daniel's voice. He sounded nervous. Baby, trust me, Miranda cooed. I've done my research. This digitalis compound, it's untraceable in small doses. But mixed with his new heart medication, it's a bomb. It will trigger a massive arrhythmia. The coroner will sign off on natural causes before his body is even cold. God, Miranda, it's my father. It's our future, Daniel, she said, her voice turning hard. Do you want to be comfortable or do you want to be rich? Rich takes sacrifice. Now stop whining and go tell him you brought him his coffee. He didn't just know. He didn't just agree. He handed his father the cup. I thought there could be nothing worse. I was wrong. I found a third recording, dated just hours after they had thrown me out of my own home. Phase 1 is complete, Miranda said. She sounded triumphant. The old man is dead. The old bitch is on the street. Now phase 2. I thought we were done, Daniel said. We're done when I say we're done. The house is one thing. But she might have her own money, a pension, old bonds, things that pathetic brother of hers might have left her. We can't have her out there as a loose end. So what? So, Miranda said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, we find her. We rescue her. We realize she's mentally incompetent. We get her committed. A nice, quiet state facility. Once we have power of attorney, we find every last cent she has. She'll rot in a padded room, and we'll be on a beach in Tahiti. The room spun. They weren't just going to let me be homeless. They were going to hunt me down and bury me alive. The next morning, when Matilda Wakefield arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, I was sitting in Martin's chair, the files and recorders laid out neatly on the desk. I hadn't slept. She stopped in the doorway. You found them. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. You knew what they did. Martin instructed me to say nothing, she said, entering the room. She was followed by a tall, fit man with watchful eyes. He said you had to find them yourself. He said the choice to fight back had to be yours. Who is this? This is Trevor Riley, the man said, stepping forward. I'm a private investigator. I was in your brother's employ for the last 8 months. I gathered that evidence. I looked at the recorders. The audio. Is it legal? Perfectly, Trevor said. The kitchen window was open. The device was on the public access exterior sill. They were recorded in a place with no reasonable expectation of privacy. It's all admissible. I looked at Matilda. She murdered my husband. My son helped her. They were going to have me committed. Matilda nodded, her face grim. They are monsters, Irisa. So what now? I asked. My voice was a low, steady rasp. The grief was gone, burned away. All that was left was a cold, pure rage. We give this to the police. We can, Trevor said. The DA would have a strong case for fraud and conspiracy. The murder, that's harder. It's her word against a recording. They'll claim it was faked. They'll bog it down in court for years. Martin didn't want them in court, Matilda said, her voice sharp. He wanted them destroyed. What are you suggesting? A sting, Trevor said. They don't know you found this. They don't know about Martin. They don't know you have $47 million. They just think I'm a homeless, broken old woman, I finished, the plan forming in my mind. Exactly, Matilda said, a predatory smile touching her lips. They think you're their next target. They're phase 2. So, let's let them. Let's let them walk right into a trap they can't escape. I want to do it, I said, my voice hardening. I don't just want justice. I want to watch them fall. I want to be the one who pushes them. Good, Trevor said, because they're arrogant. And arrogance makes people sloppy. The first step was the phone call. Trevor and Matilda coached me for an hour. You're not angry, Irisa, Trevor instructed. You're broken, you're lonely, you're desperate. You miss your son. You're a victim and you're reaching out for your abuser. It's a classic pattern. They'll expect it. I dialed the number from the penthouse landline, a number Daniel wouldn't recognize. My hands were shaking, but this time it was with adrenaline, not fear. He picked up on the third ring. Hello? Cautious. Daniel? I let my voice crack. I sobbed. Daniel, it's Mom. A long, heavy silence. I could hear him breathing. How did you get this number? His voice was cold, flat. I'm staying with a friend, I cried. An old friend from nursing school. She found me. Daniel, please don't hang up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Sorry for what? For being a burden, I whispered, the words tasting like poison. For not understanding what you and Miranda were trying to do. You were right. I was selfish. Where are you? He cut in, his voice sharp. New York. My friend lives here. But Daniel, something's happened. Something I don't understand. It's about my family, about Uncle Martin. I could hear a muffled sound. He was covering the phone, talking to her, to Miranda. What about him? Daniel's voice was back, laced with a new, keen interest. He passed away, Daniel, and he left me some things. I don't understand it. It's lawyers and papers and money. I'm so scared I don't know what to do. Money? What money? I don't know. They're talking about numbers, big numbers, and an apartment, and all these rules. I took a shaky breath. I need my family. I need you. What numbers, Mom? They said $47 million, but that can't be right, can it? It must be a mistake. Daniel, I'm so confused. Please, can you and Miranda come? Just for a day. Please, I need your help. Another muffled conference. It was shorter this time. We'll be there tomorrow, he said, his voice suddenly smooth, filled with a false, sickening warmth. Don't you worry, Mom. We'll take care of everything. I hung up and looked at Trevor. He nodded. The hook is set. Now we prepare the penthouse. The next morning, Trevor's team descended. They were quiet, efficient professionals. Tiny pinhole cameras were installed in the living room, the study, the kitchen. Microphones were hidden in lamps, in flower arrangements. Trevor set up a command center in one of the guest bedrooms, a bank of monitors displaying every angle. You'll wear this, he said, handing me a simple silver necklace. It's a high-fidelity microphone and a panic button. If things go wrong, you press the clasp, and we're in that room in 3 seconds. Matilda drilled me on the new narrative. You're house-sitting for your wealthy friend. You just found out about the inheritance. You haven't seen the money. You don't understand the rules. You are overwhelmed and weak. You are the perfect target. I understand, I said, clipping the necklace on. It felt cold against my skin. They're arrogant, Trevor said, his voice in my earpiece. They'll believe what they want to believe, and they want to believe you're a gullible old woman with access to $47 million. I changed into a simple, modest dress, one of the less expensive-looking ones from the closet. I mussed my hair. I sat on the sofa, wringing my hands, practicing the look of fear and confusion. At noon, the doorman buzzed. A Mr. and Mrs. Mayhew to see you. Send them up, I said, my voice trembling. This time, the tremor wasn't an act. Showtime, Erisa, Trevor's voice murmured in my ear. We are with you every step. You're in control. I stood. I walked to the elevator. I waited. The ding of its arrival was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. The doors slid open. There they were. Daniel, my son. He looked tired, but his eyes were bright, greedy. And Miranda. She was radiant, wearing a red dress that cost more than my first car. She was already scanning the penthouse, her eyes wide, a flicker of avarice passing over her face before she masked it. Erisa, she cried, rushing forward to hug me. Her embrace was like being held by a snake. Oh, you poor thing. We were so worried. You look thin. Miranda, Daniel. I pulled back, letting my eyes fill with tears. You came. You really came. Of course we came, Mom, Daniel said. He hugged me too. His was stiff, perfunctory. We're family. He pulled back and looked around, whistling. This friend of yours. She's doing okay, huh? Yes, I said, leading them into the living room. She's very successful. So, Miranda said, sinking into a plush velvet armchair and crossing her legs. She didn't wait to be invited. Tell us everything. What is this about Uncle Martin? I told them the story we had created. My old friend from nursing school found me, took me in. Then the letter from the lawyer, the shock, the confusion. They just keep talking about all this money, I said, twisting my hands in my lap. 47 million, it scatters my brain, and all these rules. Rules? Daniel asked, leaning forward. I have to live here, in this apartment, for a whole year, or I get nothing. It all goes to charity. I let my voice crack. I don't know if I can do it. I'm so lonely. I just want to go home. Miranda and Daniel exchanged a look. It was so fast I would have missed it if I wasn't looking for it. It was a look of pure, unadulterated triumph. Oh, Arisa, you poor dear thing, Miranda said, her voice dripping with fake pity. Of course you're overwhelmed. It's a blessing, but a complicated one. We'll help you, Mom, Daniel said. We'll get our lawyers to look at the paperwork. Maybe there's a loophole, a way to get you the money without you having to be trapped here. You would do that? Of course, Miranda said, standing up. We'll handle everything. You just rest. Now, would you mind if I use the powder room? It was a long drive. It's just down the hall to the left, I said. Miranda smiled and walked down the hall. But she didn't turn left to the powder room. She turned right, toward the study. She's off script, Trevor's voice said in my ear. Stay with Daniel. Keep him talking. My heart hammered. So, Daniel, how is work? I asked, my voice shaky. Oh, it's fine, Mom. Fine. He was distracted, his eyes darting around the room, calculating. This art, is it real? In the monitor room, Trevor and Matilda watched Miranda. She entered the study, her eyes scanning. She wasn't looking for a bathroom. She was looking for something. She ran her hands along the books. She sat in Martin's chair. She opened the desk drawers one by one. Nothing. Then, just as she was about to stand, her hand brushed the back panel, the same one I had found. She paused. She pressed it. The hidden compartment clicked open. Miranda's eyes went wide. She pulled out the top file. Miranda Mayhew. She flipped it open. She saw the PI report, the aliases, the list of her dead husbands. Her face, which had been a mask of concern, turned to stone. She dug deeper. The bank records, the original will. Her expression darkened into a furious scowl. Martin. That old bastard. He had been watching her. Then her fingers found the velvet bags. She pulled out the first recorder. She looked at it. She pulled out the other two. She didn't listen to them. She didn't have to. The labels on the bags were enough. Kitchen. Before. After. A cruel, cold smile spread across her face. She looked at the files still in the compartment. She shoved the file on Ricardo Sanchez and Jonathan Miles back in. She shoved the bank records back in. But the 3 digital recorders, the ones with her and Daniel's voices plotting murder, she slipped them into her expensive handbag. She closed the compartment. She stood up. She smoothed her dress. She walked out of the study, her face once again a perfect mask of sweet, daughterly concern. All set, she chirped, re-entering the living room. What a lovely home. They left an hour later, promising to call their lawyers, promising to fix everything. The moment the elevator doors closed, I ripped the earpiece out. She has them, I snarled, storming into the guest room. Trevor was already rewinding the footage. She has the recorders, Irisa. All 3. She has the murder confession. I slammed my fist on the desk. She has the proof. She just walked out the door with it. This is bad, Matilda said, her face pale. She knows we were on to her. She knows Martin was. She'll destroy them. No, Trevor said, his eyes fixed on the screen. This is good. Good, I yelled. How is this good? Our smoking gun is gone. She won. No, Irisa, think, Trevor said, turning to me. She didn't take all the files. She only took the recorders. Why? I paced the room. Because that's the only thing that directly tied her to the murder. The financial stuff, the other husbands, that's circumstantial. But the confession, that was everything. Exactly, Trevor said. And she left the other files. She's arrogant. She thinks she just destroyed the only real evidence against her. She thinks she just neutered us. So what's her next move? Matilda asked. She thinks Irisa is a stupid old woman who just happened to have a dead brother with a secret, Trevor said. She doesn't know about us. She doesn't know who she's dealing with. She thinks I'm alone, I said, the rage returning, colder this time. And she thinks she's sitting on $47 million with the only condition being that you have to stay alive for 1 year, Trevor continued. She just destroyed the evidence of her last murder. What's her logical next step? My blood ran cold. She's going to try again. Yes, Trevor said. She's not going to wait a year for you to die of natural causes. Not Miranda. She's going to kill me, I said, the words hanging in the air. She's going to try, Matilda corrected me, her voice hard as steel. And this time, we're not just going to record it. We're going to catch her in the act. The old plan was dead. We couldn't go to the police with the remaining files. Miranda would just deny everything, and the key evidence was now at the bottom of the East River. We have to force her hand, Trevor said. We have to make her impatient. How? You're going to get sick, he said. Not hospital sick, but frail. You're going to call Daniel. You're going to sound weak. You're going to tell him the stress is getting to you, that your heart is fluttering. You're going to sound vulnerable. And then, Matilda said, a grim smile on her face, we wait for your loving daughter-in-law to show up with her special home-brewed medicine. And this time, we'll have a federal toxicology team waiting in the next room. It took a week of agonizing phone calls. Daniel, I'd whisper into the phone, I don't feel well. My heart. It's doing that funny thing again. You should see a doctor, Mom, he'd say, his voice tight with badly hidden excitement. No, I hate doctors. I wish you were here. I wish Miranda was here. She always knows what to do. On the 8th day, Daniel called back. We're coming, Mom. We were worried sick. Miranda she's bringing you a special restorative wine. It's an old family recipe full of herbs. It'll make you feel better. Oh, Daniel, thank you. I wept into the phone. You're a good son. The penthouse was set up again. This time, it wasn't just Trevor's team. 2 plainclothes federal agents were with them in the monitor room. A mobile toxicology lab was set up in the adjoining apartment, which Matilda had rented. The doorbell buzzed. They're here, I said to the empty room. We see them, Irisa, Trevor's voice said in my ear. Let them in. We are go. Repeat, we are go. I opened the door. Miranda was all smiles, holding a beautiful dark green bottle of wine, sealed with red wax. Irisa, you look terrible, she said, a perfect note of alarm in her voice. I haven't been sleeping, I said, letting myself lean on the doorframe. Well, this will fix you right up, she said, brushing past me. Daniel, darling, go get 3 glasses. We'll all have a sip. Oh, I don't know. Nonsense. It's just what you need. Daniel went to the kitchen. I saw his hands shake as he took 3 wine glasses from the cabinet. He knew. He knew what was in that bottle. He brought them to the living room. Miranda was already peeling the wax off the bottle with a manicured fingernail. "Here we are," she said, a triumphant gleam in her eye. She poured a small amount into Daniel's glass, a small amount into her own. Then she filled my glass almost to the brim. The cameras in the room zoomed in. The dark liquid swirled in the glass. "To family," Miranda said, raising her glass, "and to new beginnings." She held the glass out to me. Her smile was a predatory slash. She had destroyed the evidence. She was minutes away from destroying me. The 47 million was hers. I looked at Daniel. He was pale, sweating. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He stared at the glass in her hand. I reached out my hand. My fingers were inches from the glass. "Don't!" The word was a choked shout. I froze. Miranda froze. We both stared at Daniel. He was looking at me, his eyes wide with a sudden primal terror. It wasn't love. It wasn't conscience. It was the raw fear of a man watching a murder happen right in front of him. The room was silent for one agonizing second. Miranda's face twisted into a mask of pure, murderous rage. "You idiot!" she hissed at him. "Now!" Trevor's voice roared, not in my ear, but from the hallway. The apartment door burst open, slamming against the wall. Trevor, the 2 federal agents, and 4 more uniformed officers swarmed the room, guns drawn. "FBI, nobody move!" Miranda shrieked. She didn't drop the glass. She threw it at me. I ducked. The glass shattered against the wall behind me, dark liquid splashing everywhere. "Get the wine! Get the bottle!" one agent shouted. 2 officers tackled Daniel, who crumpled to the floor, sobbing. I didn't mean to." Miranda lunged for the door. Matilda Wakefield stepped out of the study, blocking her path. "Going somewhere, Miranda?" Matilda asked. Miranda screamed and clawed at her, but Trevor was on her in an instant, spinning her around, slamming her against the wall. The sound of handcuffs ratcheting echoed through the room. "Miranda Mayhew, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder," the agent said, reading her rights. Another agent was carefully collecting the shards of my glass, while a third had secured the bottle and the other 2 glasses. "We have the primary sample and the control samples. It's going to the lab. Now." It was over. Just like that. Daniel was a weeping wreck on the floor. He kept babbling, "She made me. I didn't want to. I tried to stop her." Miranda was silent. She was breathing hard, her chest heaving. The mask of the sweet daughter-in-law was gone. The mask of the grieving widow was gone. All that was left was a cornered animal. As they hauled her to her feet, her eyes found mine. They were filled with a hatred so pure, so cold, it chilled me to the bone. She didn't say a word. She just stared. She was promising me that if she ever got out, she would finish the job. She would never get out. The courthouse was a media circus. The story of the Black Widow heiress and the son she'd twisted into a killer was front-page news. I sat in the front row with Matilda and Trevor. I was wearing a bright red suit from Martin's wardrobe. I was done with mourning. They were brought in, cuffed, and in orange jumpsuits. Daniel wouldn't look at me. He just stared at his feet, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Miranda, however, stared right at me. As they led her past my row, she stopped. She strained against the guards. "Erisa!" she cried, her voice suddenly breaking, the tears streaming down her face. It was a masterful performance. "Erisa, please, tell them. I know we made mistakes. I know we took the house, but this is a lie." She turned to the reporters. "She's framing us. She's crazy. She wants her brother's money." Then she looked back at me, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "He's your son, Erisa. Your only son. Don't let them do this. Don't let them destroy your family." I stood up slowly. I walked to the railing until I was so close I could see the calculation in her tear-filled eyes. The courtroom was silent. "My family?" I said. my voice clear and carrying to every corner of the room. "My family died 6 months ago. My family died when you put digitalis in my husband's coffee cup." Her face faltered. "My son," I continued, turning my gaze to Daniel, who finally looked up, his face ashen, "died when he watched you do it, and then tried to help you bury his own mother in a state hospital." I turned back to Miranda. "You didn't just take my house, you took my life. Enjoy yours." I turned and walked back to my seat, the sound of the bailiff shouting, "Order in the court," echoing behind me. The trial was a formality. The poisoned wine from the penthouse was the final nail. The toxicology report was definitive. Combined with Trevor's files, the bank records, the original will, and the now admissible testimony from the families of Ricardo Sanchez and Jonathan Miles, it was an avalanche. Miranda Mayhew, alias Romero, alias Sanchez, was found guilty on 5 counts of first-degree murder, fraud, and conspiracy. The judge, citing her utter lack of humanity, sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Daniel, in a desperate attempt to save himself, had testified against her. It didn't help. His confession on the stand, detailing how he'd helped her murder his father and plot to kill his mother, sealed his fate. He received a life sentence for his role as accomplice. I watched them both be led away in chains. I felt no joy, no satisfaction, just a profound, empty release. It was done. I stood in the penthouse surrounded by boxes. I had fulfilled Martin's condition. The year was up. I could have stayed. I could have lived in that palace in the sky. But it wasn't my home. It was Martin's war room. I sold it. I sold the house in Harborside. I even sold the Aston Martin to a collector. I also sold the house Henry and I had built, the house Miranda had stolen. I couldn't live there. The memories were tainted, the floors stained with betrayal. I sold it to a young couple, a doctor and a teacher with 2 small children. I sold it to them for a fraction of its market value. I wanted to hear children's laughter in those halls again. I wanted the house to have a fresh start, to be filled with love instead of ghosts. With the combined fortunes of Martin's data empire and Henry's stolen estate, I was one of the wealthiest women in the state. But I'd learned what money was. It wasn't security. It was a tool. It was a weapon. I didn't buy another mansion. I bought a small, comfortable house in a quiet town upstate. It had a garden and a wide front porch. And with the rest, the tens of millions, I opened the Henry Mayhew Foundation. Its mission was simple: to provide immediate, high-powered legal defense for elderly individuals facing financial abuse and exploitation from their own families. We were a rapid response team, an army of lawyers and investigators, funded by Martin's righteous anger and Henry's stolen legacy. 2 years later, I was in my garden staking my tomatoes. A car pulled into my driveway. An older woman, easily in her 70s, got out. She moved slowly, leaning on a walker, but her eyes were bright. "Excuse me," she called out. "Are you Irisa Mayhew?" "I am," I said, setting down my twine and walking to the gate. "My name is Doris Calloway," she said, her eyes filling with tears. My grandson, he took everything. My pension, my house. He had me declared confused. I was in a facility." "Was," I repeated, opening the gate. "Come in, Doris. Sit down." "Your foundation," she said, settling onto the porch swing. "The lawyers, they were like Wolverines. They got me out. They got my house back. They're prosecuting him." She dabbed her eyes. I wanted to thank you, personally." I went inside and came back with 2 glasses of iced tea. "I'm so glad we could help, Doris." "The lawyer said, he said you understood, that you'd been through something similar." I sat across from her. "I did, and I learned something. They think we're weak because we're old. They're wrong. We're survivors. We've survived everything life has thrown at us. We can survive this, too." That evening, after Doris had left, I sat on my porch and watched the sunset. I was 70 years old. My husband was gone. My son was in prison for the rest of his life. I should have been a broken woman, but I wasn't. I had a home. I had a purpose. Every time my foundation saved someone like Doris, it was a victory. Every predator we put behind bars was a blow against the ones who had tried to destroy me. I thought about Henry. I thought about the 42 good years. They couldn't take that from me. I thought about Martin, the angry, stubborn brother who had spent 30 years in regret and his final months building an arsenal for me. I poured a glass of wine, my own untainted bottle. I raised it to the darkening sky. "Thank you, Martin," I whispered. "You gave me back my life. I promise I won't waste it." I took a sip. The wine was crisp and cool. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a widow. I was a fighter, and my war was just beginning. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.